We're off. Okay, Trevor Bird, welcome back to the Half Dozen Hospitality Podcast. This is your second time on, man. It's been a minute since you've been here, but welcome back.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you coming on, and I've been wanting to connect with you through the podcast, but also just personally as well, just to check in and see how you are. I always appreciate your candid nature in conversations, both when it comes to life and in business. So I really look
Yeah, man.
forward to discussing what's going on for you and your thoughts on what's going on for us as an industry, and just getting updated on where you're at in your life outside of all this madness as well. So first things first, I asked you off the record uh, how you were, but I'll ask you again on the record. How are you doing?
Yeah, like today is a 5 out of 10 day. It's not a fantastic thing. Like this quarantine thing is challenging. Business is challenging. Managing family is challenging.
Mhm.
And it's my son's birthday today. It's his fourth birthday, so that's pretty sweet and
Oh,
lovely, right?
amazing. Yeah. What's
Yeah,
your son's
yeah.
name again?
Leonidas,
Oh yeah, Leonidas. Happy
little
fourth, dude.
Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be an awesome day, and just some things just took me out of the present moment, and it was hard to manage. So yeah, I mean, I'm in the struggle with the whole rest of the world.
hmm
So yeah,
So something I'm really intrigued by, and something you and I feel like we connected on this a bit when you were on the podcast originally, and then me watching you from afar, kilometers away ish, and kind of
mhm,
how I feel from the way I'm digesting how you've evolved as a entrepreneur and as a business owner, as a chef, as a father, as a man. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like everything you've been doing up until this point has kind of prepared you for this. But at the same time, it's okay to be like, yeah, man, I hurt right now and I'm only a 5 out of 10. Would you agree that you've kind of been putting in the work, the reps that you need to, both like mentally with meditation and reading books and surrounding yourself with the right people, that maybe softens this blow a little bit? Or is it
yeah,
all
I
that's
mean,
out the window?
100%, man. I mean, the coping mechanisms that I have now, like I'm sitting here sober in my pain, feeling it, dealing with it. I still, my wife sees it and she says, "Babe, like we'll get through this. I love you."
Hmm.
And I have my kids sitting there, and my staff is like, "We're going to get through this." And I'm even a little emotional about it because there's a lot of pain there, but we're with each other through this, and it's not just numbing out to it and drinking too much and smoking weed or doing drugs and just being like, fuck it, like feel this discomfort and this pain and this anxiety, and then trying to find a way out of it through a short-term means. So yeah, I mean, I meditated a lot today, and it's like just trying to give yourself that permission. It's okay to have a shitty day. Like just because you're perceivably doing work, or you're a perceivable coach or therapist or whatever, like we all still struggle. Everybody still struggles. And
Yeah.
you can put up a wall and say, oh, no, I don't do that. But it's like, yeah, man, like I'm very thankful for the tools that I have to get through it. And I'm dealing with it way better than I ever have before. It's not ideal. I'm still not I'm not like, man, I'm crushing it today, but it's
Right.
still, I got good tools, and a good enough like outlook on it to be patient and loving towards myself. That this is hard, and tomorrow will hopefully be better.
So we're blessed on this podcast to have listeners that are similar to you and I, like have years of experience in this industry, and we have guests listen to this that have never worked a shift in a restaurant and maybe dine at a restaurant once a month, if not once every few months. But I think this is a really important time for us to have conversations like this, just to add more context on what the reality actually is. And I feel blessed that we can do this. We have technology at our fingertips. You and I can jump on here and then speak to thousands of people the next day.
Mm.
So paint me a picture and paint the listeners a picture, and be as vivid or as not as vague as you want. What is your current reality in regards to, let's just talk about from a business standpoint, what does it actually look like for a small business owner in hospitality that just kind of as far as I'm concerned, from where I stand, like just reinvested in his business and kind of like relaunched your restaurant, really?
Yeah, yeah. That's okay. So We were probably doing the best that we ever have been doing in the 8 years that we've been open. Our profits were going up, and our revenue dropped a little bit. I think that was the industry norm, but our profits were getting stronger. And I just got an amazing team together, so I was feeling really confident and good in the direction of the restaurant. And literally within, it kind of came up. We were like doing good, and then it just kind of faltered one week. Our next week was killer. It faltered again, and then it just fucking sank, and like it felt like the rug got pulled underneath from us. And it was one day we were working. I mean, as we all know, this is changing hour by hour. And one day we were working, and as a leader in your business, you never want to create panic within your staff, or you never want to be like, this is crazy. You got to keep a level head with things. So um, I was trying to be like, okay, guys, industry wide, this is kind of what's going down. I just know that this is not a personal thing. And March 16th, I mean, I think every restaurant in Vancouver, I mean, not every restaurant, but I'd say about 60 to 70% of restaurants just pulled the plug on that day. And, that was the day that we let 30 people go. And, I've talked to a lot of other restaurateurs that had a really hard time with it. I didn't really have that hard of a time with it, because we're all in this together. Like, it's not like, oh man, like you guys are shitting it, like I have to let you
Hmm.
go. It's like, this is completely out of our control. This is like,
Hmm.
has nothing to do. Nobody could do anything to fix this. And the best thing that we could do is give them the information, the tools, what the government is saying, listen to what they're passing down to us, pass it on to your employees, so they're educated and they have the knowledge of how to progress and move through this whole space. So we were doing 100% of revenue on March 16th. We were doing 0% of revenue for a week. We scrambled to get an online thing set up, which is so challenging because you have to build a website, get developers on board, integrating like the payments online to like their front and then into your POS system. It is like a shit ton of work. And for restaurants to just like try to figure that out on the fly, like the restaurateurs that have the tech background definitely excelled through that. But like myself, I had to rely on my developer, who's an incredible person. But that took about a week and a half to set up, and then now we're like relaunching a restaurant that we've never done before, and
Hmm.
we're doing an eighth of like a tenth of what we were doing in revenue. So I mean, our business dropped 90% in revenue. And I went from 30 employees and I have two now,
Wow.
and it doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I get like, our landlord is like, the landlords still need to get paid. The landlords still need to pay bills. And I've heard, everything from nobody's getting any breaks to we're getting our rent deferred to I have to pay 50% rent, get the rest deferred. And like, it leaves us in a really scary spot. And we never want to screw anybody else over, or kick that can down the road. But we're getting, the whole society's getting fucked right now. And it's yeah, it's there's so much gray area and so much conversation to have about it. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing good or bad. It's just, it is what it is.
Do you feel like there's any other industry that is as vulnerable as the hospitality industry, or are we the only ones that are just like as vulnerable as we are right now? Like, and why? And why?
Like I'd say like small business in general's totally fucked. Like I mean, everybody's dropped. It's funny, the government's like, oh, anybody that's dropped 30% in revenue, like we got your back. It's like, okay, so every business in Canada then, like I don't know anybody that's dropped less than that. I mean, some tech companies are doing pretty well, but yeah, I would say every small business across the board has been just as affected as we are.
Regardless of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe like small tech businesses are doing well because like the guys that are trying to integrate into pick up and take out, and they're really jumping on board. That's good. But I mean, you like clothing shops, retail's fucked. Automotive industry. Nobody's gonna be buying cars for like the next 2 years.
Hmm.
The housing market is like okay now, but in 12 months, nobody's gonna have money to buy places. So we're just like, it's going down like industry by industry by industry. And yeah, we were like on the front lines. We're like one of the first ones to go down, but that effect is going to start affecting our farmers. It's going to start affecting people getting paid to actually go out and spend money on retail, to people going out to buy like whatever the needs are. But like if you have a storefront, you're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're brick and mortar, you're kind of screwed,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Um, I've been talking to a few people locally and then outside of Vancouver across Canada, some people in Halifax, and I I'm always intrigued by if there's ever been conversation either amongst your team or like bouncing it off your friends or your wife. Like, do you have any contingencies that you've thought of now that you could implement moving forward that may soften the blow with this thing, or is this it's too early to say, and this is just such a wacky time? There are no contingencies that you could have in place because it's so far fetched.
There's a couple there. I'd say there's two different things there. One is like build good relationships with people, like try to have the best relationship you can with the people that you give money to, such as your landlord, your suppliers. And hopefully they're willing to work with you through this, because if you have a terrible relationship with them and you start asking them for things, they're going to be like, no, like you
Yeah.
never reached out, you never tried to do anything, so of course I'm not going to get your back. So definitely creating a good community and being a good person to the people around you is very important prior to this and moving
Hmm.
forward through this, because this really levels the playing field. And that makes me emotional as well, where it's like you could be the most successful person in Vancouver right now, and you're feeling it. And costs are relative, and
Hmm.
some people are going to feel it more than others, but like we're all in this together, and there's no better, no worse. Like, if you're a purveyor of food, we are all in this. Like, there's nobody's food is better than nobody else's right now. It's like,
Hmm.
let's just worry about eating. Like, I saw some posts with some people being like, I cannot feed my family, and it's not that's breaks my heart.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone from Fresh Roots Farms. I don't know if you are aware of them, but a great local initiative. And they were saying like food is a human right. And at this
Yeah,
time, it's like more so than ever. And I think of that when I talk to friends and family right now and they ask like, hey, how you're doing? And I know you were saying like, yeah, I'm a 5 out of 10, and I appreciate you being honest. And I have my days where I'm a 5 or a 4 or an 8, but I also realize that like, man, like how lucky am I that I'm experiencing this pandemic with what I have right now. Like I've got a fridge full of food. I'm lucky I have
yeah.
some money in the bank. I've got two healthy kids that are sleeping right now in their beds and a beautiful partner, and we're all healthy. And it's just like it's and then you have people down the street that don't have internet, don't have Netflix, don't have food in their fridge, and it's just
And it's hard to believe that, and you're like, we like, what do you mean people don't have that? Because you're just like removed from it, but you hear it,
yeah.
and it's like, holy fuck, like this is in our community.
Yeah, yeah, it's sad. So it's nice to see some local platforms that exist to support those people, and I encourage anyone listening to this in Vancouver, any city, like find out how you can help if you can help, whether it's $1 or $5. And I've been telling everyone that I can like support restaurants like Fable in your city that are have now pivoted and now doing like online sales or deliveries or takeout, and because that's really what's going to potentially help them. And I
Just
taught
just sorry,
no, no,
not
go ahead. Go.
well, I don't want to plug it or anything, but anybody that is having a hard time out there right now, like I have a lot of donations. I have over 1,000 meals to give away right now. So, and I've given away a couple, two people that have reached out. But if anybody needs to eat, like send us a message and we'll feed you.
Amazing, dude. That's
That's
amazing. And
like no problem.
and how are they getting in touch with you then?
It's been everywhere from email. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. Like, it, reaching out to somebody like, yo, man, do you have food? I need to eat. Like,
Yeah,
it's sad. And
yeah.
yeah, you could just give us a call and we'll feed you.
Amazing. Where does that come from, Trevor? Like where did that uh, has that always been within you?
I
That
mean, the guys at Say Mercy started Staff Meal, and we jumped on board with them just because we needed something to do and we needed to push forward with something, and we were all pretty aimlessly trying to figure out something. They launched it, and they came up with a suspended stew idea, and that's where it was born from, was that.
mhm.
And obviously it's a noble cause, and a lot of people are into donating, and we have, like I said, like we've raised $16,000 so far to
Wow.
feed frontline workers and anybody that needs to eat. So
Have you always been of the mind, consciously or subconsciously, like you give and you get? Was that always Are you always aware of that?
I never really thought about it if I was, but I would just say, like, do your best and be a good person.
Hmm.
Just do the right thing,
Hmm. Yeah, I just feel
and good
like
things are going to happen to you, and you're going to make it through.
yeah, I just feel like it's interesting at this time, and I'm so proud of you to be doing what you're doing and sharing what you're sharing with your words, but also with your food to the community. Because at times like this, it can do the exact opposite. There can be that, and you know this all too well, that mindset or of lack, right? Where something like this hits and all of a sudden it's like you lock your doors down, it's like whatever we got is ours, and we've seen it and it's been ugly. Online videos of people like fighting over toilet paper and all these like atrocious things that are happening in our own city, in our own country, that we never
Mhm.
probably thought would happen. So it's great to see that your mindset is one of abundance. Like I don't have a lot, but what I do have, I'm willing to share.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I don't really think about it too much, but it's more so just, yeah, as I said, trying to do the right thing, and I think that there's a lot of people just trying to do the right thing right now.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's all we can really ask for.
And then
What
the
Go
other
ahead.
thing it did, the second part to that question was like if there's anything good to come from this, or like how we could pivot is with our takeout thing. You know, if we could generate an extra $500 a day in takeout
Mhm,
based on what we build now, I mean that's just, you know, great. I mean, it'd be good to keep that around. You know, we put a lot of effort into building the back end, the systems. So just integrating that into our day to day is probably going to continue on throughout this whole journey, and you know, that'll be something good. And I hope later on in the conversation we can talk about like the good things that can come from this whole thing. Like
oh, hell
there
yeah.
are a lot of great opportunities that are going to come out of this.
Yeah, hell yeah. One question I have quickly about the takeout that you guys have pivoted to, are you guys using, like, a third-party delivery, or are you guys doing everything yourselves, people picking up at the store, or how does it work?
Pick up at the store.
Yeah,
I tell you, you know, I'm still trying to connect with some people to get that put out, but it's a slow process. I mean, you know, you can
yeah,
panic and figure it out, but it's like we're still trying to figure out how to successfully get people to pick up their orders, where the payments go through, they don't get their orders messed up, and we have
mhm,
enough food to feed them. So, you
mhm.
know, I like, yeah, I mean, ideally, yes, we'd like to be there, but you start adding everything on overwhelm, and everybody's already overwhelmed, and I just want to build it organically and make sure that you know what we are doing is good.
Could this potentially exist once we come out of this? Will this still be a kind of part of your business moving forward, do you think, this part of the model, or will you go back to the traditional restaurant that we know and love?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's going to be a big conversation right now. I think it's a moment between me and you because, like, you know, looking at the numbers, like if you could do, you know, 50% of business based on this business model, it would be an extremely successful business model, and it would be like shit. I would just keep on doing that over and over again. Um, like it does work if you can get the numbers, but I mean, unfortunately, the numbers are just not there. Like if I was doing 200 people a day for takeout, this business would be blow. It would be like, great, this is how we're running the business from now on.
Right.
You know, but you know, we're getting like I know St. Mercy does pretty well, and you know, they definitely have potential to grow that into a whole other business when they're done this, and I'm sure they're already thinking about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is another business model that works extremely well, and going through to like I don't want to I am in a bit of a negative headspace today, so I don't want to
We'll come out of it.
just like, yeah, I just don't want to like dump all this like negative stuff. You know, I do have a lot of positive things to say, but like this is a lot. Like I don't want to like poo all over everything, but I mean this is could be the death of the full service restaurant industry.
Mhm,
Like, you know, the amount we're kicking the can down, the amount of debt load that every restaurant's going to take on is going to be overwhelming, and the margins that are already thin, like I don't know what the numbers are. You know, last I heard it was $107 billion that we're going into debt to take, and I agree with it. I think we should do it,
mhm,
absolutely. um but I mean, this money's not free ever, and to ask for bailouts. And it's like, I wonder if people actually know what they're asking for. But I mean, like in the future, you know, we're going to get taxed for this. We're going to have to pay this back, and it's not going to be at the current rate. We're going to have to raise taxes. We're going to have to figure it out, which means they're going to tax small business more. They're going to add on another tax. They're going to add on this and this and this. And it's like, we're already like scraping by. And now within 12 months, like it's not going to get better. And we're going to
mhm,
be loaded with debt even more. So it's like, for me, yeah, I mean, you know, the food that we knew and loved and had all these options going to, like, I know me and my team are talking about how we're going to reopen with a new concept in terms of a way smaller menu. And not only because we're not going to have the staff, because we're not going to be able to afford to hire the whole staff, but we're going to have to, we've had 30 staff. Now we're going to have to open a restaurant with 10 staff.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the economy is like, it's not like we're just going to reopen our doors and start doing, 100% of business again. People are messed up right now. They're like, they don't want to be in crowds. Like this, like permanently traumatizes you to being around people. So when you look at that, it's like, then you can't be executing huge menus. You can't be doing all this fancy shit. So yeah, it's going to be a menu that's going to be like 3 appetizers, 3 main courses, 2 desserts, and like that's it. And then it'll be rotate with whatever products we can get in, because trickling down to our farmers, like I'll use Gelderman for instance, Gelderman Farms, like he just basically within 2 weeks, nobody's buying his product anymore.
Yeah.
And now he has to ramp down his production. And when we start going again, he has to slowly ramp it back up again. And that's going to take a year or 2 years, whatever it is. And, it's a whole supply chain. And that's just one example. But I mean, it's going to be a crazy landscape.
What's your thought on, I'm seeing some of my, I guess, ex-clients now, with some of my clients and some others in the industry that are pivoting a bit, and they're doing this like grocery pickup. What are your thoughts on this?
I just saw the first one through Earl's, and I mean, good job, like great innovation. I think it's awesome. I think it's a good community need. It's a way for them to generate revenue. I'm a little jealous I didn't think of it. They great idea, awesome. I personally don't have the staff or the back end to really pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
And with the whole like, oh, the government's going to subsidize 75% of your work, it's like, or of your labor force. And when are you going to see those funds? Like I don't have a year's worth of revenue in the bank ready to roll out. Like I'm a small guy and I'm just trying to make it, and like I can't bankroll that. So I think it'd be great. I think it's a great idea, and kudos to everybody that's doing it. I mean, anybody that's doing anything right now and pushing for anything, good job. Like if you're not sitting at home wallowing in pity, like good fucking job.
Yeah, this is where we separate the wheat from the chaff, man. This is where like, and I had the conversation today with someone in the industry that you actually know. I won't say their name though, but he was saying that not that it's a good thing, but there's going to be a lot less competition after this, and that could be interesting. And that could be, but at the same point, to your point as well, we're all going to be so traumatized from this, and this is happening in Wuhan right now. I read a report yesterday that restaurants they're opening again, but they're operating at 50% capacity. So like, can you run Fable at 50%?
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Not the way it was. And it's like, I'm really hoping that my conversations with my landlord are coming up are going to be in a constructive way, because, straight up, if he expects to be paid what he was being paid moving forward, and for the next year, like we're done, not going to happen. Fable's going to close. And that's the way it's got to happen. Like there's nothing I can do about that. If he's like hard on that, it's like, good luck trying to find another tenant.
Yeah.
But like that's just the reality of it. It's like I'm not willing to go that much further into debt to make it work, because it's just gonna, like I said, then it's like, okay, then my rent is increasing because my sales are going down, and then I'm going to be taxed more. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You're already fucked, and now you're just like, we're going to take a beating, an absolute beating, to the point of less competition. Absolutely. With that being said, I also think it's a great opportunity for the young guns that have been priced out to really step up right now. Like Mark Sing Sing, I know that he's just like dying to open a restaurant. He's like the next thing in Vancouver, and he's been struggling trying to find like connections and everything. And there's going to be no shortage of connections in the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. And the guys that do want to start a restaurant and that do want to like grind for the next bit. I mean, yeah, like it's going to open up a really interesting new playing field for the industry, which I'm looking forward to, and I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I totally agree. Taking off the the chef hat and taking off the business entrepreneur hat for a bit. Let's change speeds. Let's talk about just like life, Trevor experiencing life as a father, as a man, as a friend. And let's talk about some positives you've seen from this. I've seen a lot of positives, whether it be through media or through like the community, obviously from 6 feet or more. But
Mhm.
what are some positives that you've seen in the last couple of weeks since this turned very real for us here in Canada, that have stuck with you or that you feel like deserve sharing on the show right now?
I mean, I would say the community, like I'm going to speak to my personal experience and what's going
Mm.
on, but like the community that I surround myself with is pretty incredible. Uh, and watching how we're all holding each other very accountable. We're all talking a lot, because it's like I can't remember who. I think it was Brene Brown. She's always good at personal development stuff, but she said that, like, check in with your partner and say, where are you at today? And if you're at a 3 out of 10 and you're at a 7 out of 10, you can carry the stress for the two of you that day. But if you're both like a 3 out of 10, what do you need to do to get back up so that you can carry the rest of the weight throughout the day?
Mhm.
And checking in with our partners constantly with that, every 2 times, 3 times a day. Me and my wife have that conversation a lot. We just like check in, where you at? Like today, I'm like, look, I'm at a 3 out of 10. She's like, okay, I'm like an 8. I got this. Like, you just do what you need to do and wallow in your
Mhm.
pity to get out
Mhm.
of it, or do whatever you need to do to refill your bucket. And I do the same thing with my community as well. We have a group of 10 guys that we all check on each other very, very constantly with. And the closeness that that's brought together is very beautiful, because we're all so busy all the time. And now that we actually have the time to like care about each other,
Mhm.
is pretty nice. And that's like a thing that I hope to see continue throughout this whole pandemic. And I noticed myself laughing a lot more with my community and family, which is pretty beautiful.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
How do you convey this, communicate this to your now 4-year-old son? Is it on his radar at all? Like, so I have a 2-year-old. She obviously doesn't really understand what's going on. She understands she's not at daycare anymore, and she
Hmm.
hates that.
Yeah.
But how do you, as a father, kind of navigate that, at least helping
Yeah.
him understand a bit what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, we have very real, like I like this quote: "Talk to your kid like he's a CEO."
Okay, yeah.
They're smarter. They're smarter than you think they are. They
Oh
pick up
man,
on a
they're
lot.
listening to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely have real conversations with him. He talks about the coronavirus all the time. Like, he knows what's up. And he's like, why can't we do that? And I'm like, why do you think? He's like, the coronavirus. I'm like, uh, so yeah, I mean, you have really like legit conversations with him of like what's happening right now, and it's not safe to get close to people because we could get sick, and then we can't keep you safe, and we don't like we tell him you could die, but I mean, obviously he
Right.
doesn't. That
Yeah.
concept is still kind of hard to understand. Um, but just being real with him, and trying to tell him, like he's seen me go through a whole range of emotions now, and making sure that they're safe within that, and making sure that he knows that none of it's his fault. Like, it's
Mm.
not, like, because kids are very narcissistic, so they're going to think that daddy upset means I did something wrong, when really it's nothing, has nothing to do with him. So just having those conversations as well, of like, look, it's an emotional time. This has nothing to do with you. You're a lovely kid. You're doing everything right. Nothing is your fault. That
Mm.
this is all dad right now. This is all my stuff. And
Mm.
like, please don't take that personally. And like, of course, like, I've been doing that for a long time now, like 2 years or more. So he kind of gets that conversation. But I think that having those conversations of separating, like, our emotions from each other, so he doesn't feel responsible for making me feel a certain way, is really
Right.
important.
If you had the magic wand, and if you had the ability to kind of put a bug into the powers that be in our government, and I know I don't want to make this a political show or
Mhm.
political conversation, but I'm actually a big fan of what our prime minister has done and is doing, and the fact that he's hopping in front of a camera every single day
Mhm.
at 11 o'clock, I think, is admirable at the very least. Just that in itself shows that he actually cares and is concerned about where this is going. But if you had an opportunity to speak to him or our finance minister and really just give them more context of like, what is the reality that we're going through right now, and we don't need more debt, what we need is X, like, what would be that ask, or what would be your input if you were looked at to be like a consultant on this, if you will, what would you tell them that if we want this to look different coming out of it, we need to do A, B, and C, or D, E, and F?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page as you. As I think the government is doing everything they can. I think I agree with everything they are doing, and I've heard a lot of, I guess, victimhood, or I've heard a lot of people being like, "Oh, you're not doing this, or it needs to be faster." It's like okay, like imagine you are in a restaurant on a Saturday night and you are three cooks short in a line of 10 people, and your dishwasher is sick because of the coronavirus, and you're two servers down, and your restaurant fills to the fucking max, and you have 2 hours to execute.
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect? Of course, it's going to be a shitty like flow of figuring things out, not knowing what's going on. People are going to fail. People are going to
We lost Trevor, but hopefully he comes back. I'm not sure if he's going to come back. Oh, it says I'm not connected. Okay, I'm going to pause this and try and get back on with Trevor.
hello.
Wow, crazy. I
Good.
feel Yeah, I feel like you were like on a roll there, and all of a sudden you froze. I was like, "What the hell just happened?" Anyway, we're somehow still recording. So, uh, you were
Well,
talking.
I'm losing you now.
Oh, are you? Oh, hang on
I
one
could go.
second.
I could redo that whole thing if you want, because I know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. Hang on one second. Let me try something here.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I think it's good. Okay, so the last I got of that was, it's a busy Saturday night, and you're like filled to the brim, and like stuff's gonna be slower. Service is gonna look different.
Yeah.
Continue.
So it's Saturday night. You're a bunch of cooks down. You're a bunch of servers down. Your dishwasher didn't show up, and like you are getting shit kicked to the max. And your restaurant fills up beyond capacity, and there's people lined up out the door, and you got to figure out how to feed everybody, and you're running out of food, and you're running out, and it's just like, picture the worst service of your life is happening to the service of the government right now. So the things that I would say is be compassionate for them, have some patience, because this isn't going to be a fixed thing. It's like, we're only set up to process so much. Like your restaurant's only set up to process so many guests.
Hmm.
And you got me still?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah. So with when you're uh you're trying to give 1 million people EI, like it's going to be challenging to get that much money out the door.
Hmm.
It's going to take some time. And
Yeah.
so I think that I agree with everything the government's doing. And what I don't agree with is is the population and the people's opinions of we should be getting free handouts.
Right.
Yeah, like like the conversation of like they're not doing enough. They need to be giving us bailouts. Like a bailout is a loan. That's what a bailout is. Like a bailout is not free money. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like they dropped interest rates to record lows to like nothing.
Hmm.
They're making us pay interest only. Like, what else do you expect? Like, they can't do anything else. They're doing everything they possibly can in our power. And it's like, I think that we are holding on to this idea of our businesses so hard and so much that we can't accept the reality that things need to change. And it's
Yeah.
like that it's being swept out from underneath us. Yeah, that's a scary thought. It's everything that we know it's not going to go back to the way it was. But to expect uh, free free handouts so that we can keep living our lives is just
Mm.
not a reality, and that's
Yeah.
not going to happen. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news of the person to challenge anybody on that, but you know yeah, it's this will forever shift.
Yeah, I think we as an industry need to take responsibility a bit. Like the government isn't the one that broke this industry. We're the ones that have been, selling spot prawns for too cheap on our menu for way too long. Like, and we're the ones that have been facilitating that. So shame on us. Like, guys, sort your stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So,
Very well said.
again, there's a lot of people that would challenge that, and I'm open
Of
to that
course.
conversation.
Of course.
But I feel like it's our fault. It's 100% our fault. We got ourselves here to the point where we need a bailout.
Yeah.
And my goal is through conversations like this and others is like, how can we insulate ourselves so that when this does happen again, hopefully never in our lifetime, hopefully never in our children's lifetime, but when it happens again, because it will,
Mhm.
that they're insulated enough that the hospitality industry is like, no, cool, thanks government, we got this. Like we don't need a bailout, we're all good. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that, that's the dream of any small business, really, right? But I mean, I
yeah.
think that it's like it's a I mean, not to be too aggressive, but it's a dog eat dog world out there. And if you're not willing to change and you're not willing to shift, and you just want to go back to the way things were, you're
Mhm.
done.
So
That's it.
then, what are the conversations you're having right now, whether it's with yourself at night or with your team or with your wife, in regards to like what does this look like when we come out of it? And I'd love to get your take on when we come out of it. I think it's like August, September before things get normal again.
Yeah,
But what
and that's
does
that's a scary fucking thought, man. But
oh,
yes, I agree with
it's
you.
crazy.
Yeah.
So what does your business model look like if you don't mind sharing it? Have you got there yet in regards to thinking about what it could look like, or we're not there yet?
I think that there's a lot of collaboration to happen, and to be very transparent with every listener and everybody on this thing. It's like, if it's going till August, September, there's probably not going to be a restaurant to go back into,
Hmm.
straight up. Like, it's the thing is that if I had you it's fucking hard to be in the restaurant industry, and everybody out there knows it, and it's a struggle and it's a challenge, and it's just like, you're a punching bag and you just keep getting worked on. And like, um if I was younger and I didn't have a family and I had the energy and I had the space and capacity to do it, I could do it. I could make it work. um I've grown, I have a family, I have a growing family. uh I just don't have that bandwidth anymore to be a punching bag. I won't allow it. So it's like, I'm not willing to dump so much of more debt into this to make it work. It's like, I'm drawing my line. I know where it is. When
Hmm.
that line is up, it's over, and that's it. Um,
Can you share what the reality may be then? If this does go to say August, September, what is the what is the life support like for a place like Fable, where you're like, man, if this hits July, like we're done, or if this hits late
it's
June, we're
it's
done.
basically it's a certain number of debt. Like,
Oh, okay, got you, got you. Yeah.
like, where I'm taking a loan out from BDC, because BDC is making loans extremely obtainable for any small business. So I'm going to
Hmm.
take out one of those loans. And if I can make it through however long this takes with that loan, great. If I can't, we're done. That's it.
Right.
I'm not gonna sit in this industry for another 10 years. And like I said, with all the taxes that are going to be put on us and everything
Hmm.
else, and the raise and cost of everything, like, it's just going to become harder and harder and harder. And yeah, so that's my line for the whole thing. That's my
Let
boundary with it.
Let's talk about something that I've been wanting to ask you before this conversation, before all of this madness kind of has transpired. Is I've kind of noticed you positioning yourself again. This is feel free to interject. I'm paraphrasing here and using my own
Mm-hmm.
words, but I've seen you kind of position yourself in a way of making yourself more available as more like a coach or a consultant for the industry. Again, this is just my perception of where I stand, and helping people understand that it doesn't have to be the way it's been for so long. And I always have appreciated the things that you share on social media. One thing you shared that I shared actually with my coach, and he was like, "That's amazing. I love that." I don't know if you remember it, but you shared. It said, it was a quote, and it said, uh, "Normal. What is it?
Normal for the flies, chaos, or normal
Chaos.
moral normal
No for the
for chaos
spiders,
for the
chaos for
fly.
the fly." I was just like, so I feel like you've taken yourself to a new level, and someone who, because of where you're at in your life as a father, with your growing family and a partner, that you're looking at like the longer game here and helping people on the come up. Is that correct? And if so, what is that looking like for you? Like, what has that progression been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm just super passionate about, and it's because it just comes from my own personal pain and my own personal journey of, like, how I came up and how many struggles I've had emotionally, and depression and anxiety, and all the drugs and all the numbing agents that I've used. And like, I've found my way through it. And whoever's willing to actually do the effort to put it in and see the other side of it, it's like, that lights me up. Having these conversations lights me up. And um I get way more excited about that kind of stuff than I do about getting shit kicked in a restaurant for
Mm-hmm.
minimal margins that gets shit on all the time. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, like it's something that I really love doing. And whatever happens, it'll always be part of my life because it's part of my value system. And I do coach a couple of people, just more so out of passion than like trying to make a business out of it, just because I love seeing people come through the breakthroughs on the other side of like their limiting beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
why they're so caught into boxes. And unfortunately, chefs are very, very identified based as being the chef, and chefs should be this way and should be that way, and should is a super dangerous word. And we being so involved in our industry, we should be doing certain things, and trying to break away from that is very freeing when you actually can. So uh just I just try to have those conversations. And my whole thing is like, just have different perspectives. It's like, just open your perspectives and open your line of view to what the way you see something. And that's my goal with most people. And it's like I try to stand as non-partial as possible, like not on one side or the other. I just try to get to people to be like, oh yeah, I never really looked at it like that, because a lot of people attack certain conversations from their opinion only. And it's like, I can come across like that, but I always try to make the effort to argue the other side as well, so that there is a very broad scope to gain all the information you can possible, instead of just being so rigid and this is how it is, this is how it has to be. Our
Mm-hmm.
government isn't doing enough, our government is shitting it. It's like, no, the government is shitting it in certain aspects, but really when you look at what's going on and you can see how fucked they're getting right now,
Mm-hmm.
have a bit of real like polarity there, and realize that they're not intentionally doing it.
Right. If someone out there is listening right now, and I'm sure there is someone that's a fan of yours, a fan of the restaurant, or has kind of followed you from like where you started out to where you're at now, and now they're hearing of like you're working with some people and doing some coaching kind of on the side, more of a passion project, potentially something that could pivot into a business at some point, who who would be like an attractive person for you to work with? Like, what is their pedigree? What are their challenges? Like, what is their current reality they're experiencing that you feel like you could be of value in
Mm.
working with them?
Yeah, I mean, the pedigree would be a person. Like, as long as
So
you,
it's not a dog.
yeah, yeah. I just mean in terms of like, I only work with executives or CEOs or,
Right, right, right.
I think that's,
That's hilarious.
I'd say the people that just want to, the people that aren't happy with where they're at, or they know something's not working and they want to see a better version of themselves, and they know they can be a better version of themselves. The people that want to do the work to come out on the other side, to you can't force the people that don't think anything's wrong with them, or people in their
Hmm.
judgments that are like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I don't want to work with people that don't want to change. You want to work with people that want to evolve, that want to broaden their perspective, that want to escape that anxiety, want to find a way through their challenges. And that would be it. And in terms of like who would be ideal, it's like, if you're in a spot where you think that things can be better, they can be
Hmm.
100%.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So days like today where you're a 3 and then you're a 5, um, do you have people? I know you mentioned like you're a group of 10 guys, but is there like one or two people that you really lean on to besides your partner,
Oh yeah.
that help
Absolutely.
kind of fill that cup up some more?
Absolutely. I mean, I personally see a therapist once a week to every 2 weeks, and they're like my cornerstone. He's probably the most important person in my life.
Hmm.
Uh, with that, having a space, somebody holds space for you where you can speak your mind and not be judged for it and not be shamed for it, whatever it is, and can hold space for your emotions, whatever they are, to feel safe expressing that with somebody else is so healing, whether
Hmm.
it's anger, sadness, rage, excitement. But like the closest relationships around us, like our wife and our kids and our partners, it's like, um, it's not always appropriate to share everything with them.
True.
And
Yep.
having, like, if you're, your wife is not your therapist. Like, your wife isn't there to watch you cry all the time, right? So
Hmm.
having a space where you can go to and be like, this is what I'm struggling with, this is really hard, and maybe it's about your partner, and somebody that can kind of help you through those blocked emotions, and I won't get too into psychology right now, but I mean, a lot of our anxiety comes from not being able to express our emotions, and a lot of anger comes from not being able to express the anger properly or safely, or not knowing how. And a lot of us have really fucked up relationships with our emotions because every time we've expressed our emotions in the past, have been shamed, have been told they're not okay. So when we grow up, we don't know how to handle them because we've
Mm,
always been told it's not okay to cry, it's not
mm.
okay to be angry. So then when we feel those things, we come up with these really fucked up ways of dealing with them.
I just had this premonition of call it like 18 months from now. Fable's back up and running. It looks and feels a little bit different, but it's going really well. You've got a great
Mm-hmm.
team that's pumping along. You're kind of like you're in and out of the business, helping out where you need to, but you've gone back to school and you're actually taking a psychology major and you're like fully diving in. Is this a potential for you? Do you think? Like it sounds to me like you've got a true passion for helping people like tap into that part of the brain that may have been either damaged or has been turned off for far too long, and understanding like things can be better and removing those limitations that we have set on ourselves. Would you ever see yourself going down that path of like re-upping on your education and fully diving into whether it's the mind or the body or both?
Yeah, I mean, my intention is to always be learning something new. So I definitely put a lot of effort into that. Uh, but I mean, in terms of going back to university course, not a chance. I don't think there's not like the value of. I'm also very like financially and business driven, and I think a whole lot about money and how to work with it. And going to university, it's not a good investment. Like you go to, if I'm going to get like a psychology major, I'm in school for the next 6 years, at
Yeah,
least $140,000
yeah,
in tuition fees. That's it. No, like, that's not living.
yeah,
When you can, there's a lot of courses out there that you can take, that I have been taking, and that you can take, and that you can read a lot of amazing books on
exactly.
psychology, like
Yeah.
learn about it. And it's like, just if you work on yourself enough, like you can lead other people through their emotions. When you start to become more comfortable with your emotions, you
Mm.
can hold space for other people's emotions. You start to not get triggered by other people's anger, because it's like a lot of the time when somebody else gets angry, your automatic reaction to that is, I'm going to be angry at you, you're angry at me. But when you can actually see behind it, and you start to get comfortable with your anger and understand why you get angry, then you can start to actually like understand somebody else's anger and help them through that, instead of meeting it with more anger and then just having it blow up into a huge situation. So yeah, I mean, like, there's academia and
Mm.
business is two different things. And of course, I always respect academia, and I think it's amazing, and research and all that stuff. And critical thinking is imperative. But for me personally, it's like I want to do what makes sense financially,
Mm.
and what I feel that I'm not perfect at it. I even think there's a gray area there with like chefs. Like, look at chefs and master chefs. What's the difference between a coach and a psychologist, and a chef, and like a guy that goes on Master Chef?
Right.
Like, it's all the same. It's all the same shit. It's like,
Just the
I'm a
title.
self-trained chef. It's like, I'm a self-trained fucking psychologist. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not saying I
Yeah. No,
am.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I
I
got you.
take a very strong interest in it, and it's like
Yeah.
you can work with that.
I feel like you're kind of like the surfer that has like you've gone past the break and you're like over those ugly waves and there's people on the shore looking at you and you're like, guys, it's okay. Like all you got to do is like get through these waves and I'll help you. It's like go there or gun this way or go left or go right. And that's how I just, as you were describing that to me, that's how I envision you. It's like you've kind of, you've walked through and stumbled through those waves and now
And
you're on the
still
other
stumbling, still stumbling.
and still getting hit by them at some point. Yeah. But at least you can be like kind of that beacon for people a little bit. And I think especially at this time, that's such a cool space to be in and to hold for others. So if I can, on the record, I'm going to encourage anyone that's listening that may need a helping hand to reach out to Trevor if that's cool with you.
Yeah, cheers, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I always appreciate how approachable you've been and accommodating to me as well. And I don't remember, you know, if you remember this, but the first time we were on the podcast, I talked to you about the first time that we really met. And the first time I met Trevor, for those of you guys that haven't heard the story, was I was selling like French Velux vinegars and other random stuff from Europe. And Fable was relatively new at the time, and it was a rainy day in Vancouver, surprise. And I was texting you, or I called you from my phone, and you came out to my vehicle and sat in the vehicle and like placed an order with me. And I thought it was just like the coolest thing for you to take that time to do that. It wasn't a massive order, so I wasn't like over the moon, but it was enough that I was excited. But I was very appreciative of how accessible you've always been to me. And although we don't see each other often and chat always, I do consider you a friend, and I appreciate you making time and
Cheers, man.
supporting me as you always have done.
I always support you, man, and I think what you're doing is great as well, and it's super valuable to the industry. So yeah,
No, thank you. I
you
appreciate
always have
that.
my respect.
On that note, I don't want to take too much of your time because I do know you have a busy life outside of doing a podcast at
I'm
eight
going to
o'clock at
bed
night.
right
Yeah, exactly.
now. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, no, you
I want
you
to
and
wake
me
up in a
both.
new headspace.
Yeah. I want to give you an opportunity though, and if you want to take it, you can. You don't have to. I want to give you an opportunity just to speak to uh, everyone, or everyone in our industry, or like human beings right now. If you have a message to send to them at this time, obviously this is not prompted, so I'm asking you on the spot. If you don't have anything to say, that's cool as well. I just thought I'd be silent for a minute and give you an opportunity to kind of share your message with the people, and kind of convey some words from you, Trevor Bird.
Yeah. Thanks. Just to take a deep breath into that for a second. If I had a message, it's like we're struggling as a society, and we're struggling as a global society, not just our country, not just our province. This is worldwide, and I, for one, am extremely thankful to be living in Canada for the support that we have and the resources that we have at our fingertips, compared to a lot of other countries and a lot of other places in the world. Um, it might not be perfect for everybody, but we if we choose to get help, we can get help in any facet that we like. We can get food, we can get mental health help. For everybody's trying to do a good thing right now, and we're all in this together. None of it is your fault. None of it. Like there's not anything anybody could have done to avoid this. This is just put onto us, and we're just thrown into a washing machine of shit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, work on things that keep you sane. Try not to drink too much. Try not to do too many drugs. Um, and if there's something that you ever wanted to pursue in this industry, in life, like now's the time. If you wanted to open up a little bit of space to, you're curious about yoga, curious about meditation, curious about taking a course, like if you guys are interested in learning anything, right now is the time to explore that. I mean, udemy.com, there's online courses for everything, and they're all offering amazing rates right now because everybody's in the same space. And like it's not to tell you you're not doing enough, but it's the act of doing anything besides sitting there and feeling depressed is going to get you through this. And it's also a beautiful opportunity to be with the people you love and really just be in this moment, because this is a moment of history, and it will never ever happen again in your lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It won't. It just
yeah,
won't.
yeah,
We might have some economic downturns, but like I consider this. I imagine that this is what it was like in 1928 on Black Monday.
yeah.
And I can't confirm that, but I mean, I just assume like 2008, like we were all there, most of us, and it was shitty, but it wasn't that bad. A month or two later, we were back up and running, and like this is once in a time history. So enjoy it for what it's worth. Play the video games you've always wanted to play. Read the
Mm-hmm.
books you've always wanted to read, and come out of like, how are you, like, what is the type of person you want to be at the end of this? Do you want to be beat up and look like shit, or do you want to come out of this thing with like a six pack and look good and work towards your goal, create the goal for yourself and move towards that? And best of luck to everybody. And even though none of us are perfect out of it, including myself, just be patient with yourself and with everybody around you, because everybody's a little bit on their toes. So much love to everyone.
Wise words, man. I appreciate that. Before I do let you go officially, if people do want to reach out and engage with you or your team just to keep tabs on how things are progressing through this, how best people follow along, reach out, and touch base?
Yeah, it's Chef Trevor Bird on Instagram. I downloaded TikTok. Don't fucking do it. Don't. God damn, that thing could just eat time. So
Yeah.
I don't have a TikTok account yet, but I just
Okay.
watch it nonstop. And yeah, I'm super easy to find on social media. Chef Trevor Bird on Twitter, Instagram, and I don't really use Twitter too much, but um, yeah, you can find me. I'm around.
And then for those of you guys that are tuning in and you are local, as Trevor mentioned, he has meals. If you need meals, reach out so you can get a hold of him at the restaurant or at his team at the restaurant, correct?
Yeah, go to www.fablecitchen.ca. We do have like our takeout menu there posted every morning at 8 o'clock. We're doing super cheap food, $5 to $10. We just want to feed anybody in the community that needs food. If you are hard up, leave a message being like, "Man, I'm struggling. I just need to eat." We'll
Mm-hmm.
hook you up. There's funding there for that. So don't be shy. Reach out and support where you can. Donate a suspended stew if you have an extra $5. It goes a super long way for anybody that needs it. It will be completely confidential, and don't worry about it. We're here for you.
Amazing. Trevor, I want to say thank you so much again for being so generous with your time, as always, to me and to the listeners. I truly appreciate it. You killed it again, round two, and I look forward to round three at some point. Hopefully, at that point, we're celebrating things looking a lot different from an economic standpoint, but also from a global health standpoint as well. So, thank you, Trevor. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Brad. That is Trevor. This is the Half Dozen Hospitality Podcast. And if it wasn't for you guys, this show wouldn't exist. So thank you so much for tuning in as you do week after week. And I encourage you and implore you, if you have the ability, go out and support your local businesses like the Fables that are out there because we want them to exist when this thing is done and over. So support local, support local, support local. That's it for me. Trevor, thanks again. You guys have a great day, and we will chat to you next week. Be good and do good. That's it, man. We did it.
Sweet.
Well done.
This is a really good interview. I feel a little bit